Hello and welcome to my Yugioh channel. Today we're covering the last remaining cards from Rage of the Abyss. These are the random last cards combination that they're introducing into the archetype. They don't have any specific themes, it's just here's the last of them. Transient Titan of Tartarus is a level 9 Earth attribute zombie effect monster with 2600 attack and 0 defense. You can only use one of the first or second effect of this card's name per turn, and only once that turn. 1. If this card is sent from the deck to the graveyard, send as many cards you control as possible to the graveyard, and if you do, special summon this card, then send cards your opponent controls to the graveyard, up to the number of your cards sent to the graveyard by this effect. Neither player can activate monster effects in response to this effect's activation. And if this card is sent to the graveyard except from the deck, you can send one card from your hand to the graveyard, send one card on the field to the graveyard. This is a level 9 zombie type monster, so it is probably quite well within the zombie type archetypes. It's fine in terms of its first effect because provided it's sent from the deck to the graveyard, which you can do pretty much through Foolish Burial or some other means. There is one of the, there's the Earth attribute Knight that can pitch it as well. That's another reason for doing so. You send as many cards you control as possible to the graveyard, and then you can instantly special summon this card. Then your opponent has to send cards they control equivalent to the number of cards that you sent to the graveyard by this effect. And since those cards are sent to the graveyard, mostly they don't have any abilities that can then trigger, whereas a lot of cards react to being destroyed. They have other effects. Your opponent is also unable to activate monster effects in response to this effect's activation. Neither are you, but that's not really an issue for you because you're gaining the benefit. That means no Baron de Fleur, that means no Halusa, there's none of that can actually negate this effect. No effect favor. Second effect, simply when this card is sent to the graveyard, except when it's been sent there from the deck, as that's from the first effect, you're able to send a card from your hand to the graveyard, and then send a card on the field to the graveyard. This means that you can deal with your opponent's cards without them being able to recover those resources. Perfect Lander is a level 2 Earth attribute beast flip effect monster with 200 attack and defense. You can only use the first and second effect of this card's name each once per turn. 1. If this card is sent from the hand or deck to the graveyard, you can special summon it in a face-down defense position. 2. If a monster is sent from the hand and or deck to your graveyard while you control this monster, that was flipped face-up, you can target one of them, special summon it in face-down defense position. It says here in the notes this is a play on Pet Cat, and they're pretty sure this is referencing cats land on their feet, as it's turning revolving cat. That's the definition and meaning of it. The first effect is as soon as this card is sent from the hand or deck to the graveyard, face down defense position, as I'd argue if it had been allowed to do so in face up defense position, then you can use it as part of the Beast Rank 2 engine that you have with number 60 file, which is that Ronin Raccoon Sendayu. It could be used as another combination with that. It could have also been used with the Mystical Forest cards, as there's a few of those that happen to be level 2 that can summon each other pretty quickly. Second ability, if a monster is sent from the hand and or deck to the graveyard, provided you have this monster that has been flipped face up, so that justifies why it has to be face down first before you can actually use the secondary ability. You're able to target one of them and special summon it in a face down defense position. So therefore your opponent isn't really able to do anything with that monster for the turn, as it's already put in face down defense position, outside of maybe tributing over that card. Newbie is a level 2 light attribute insect type effect monster. It has 0 attack and defense. You can only special summon with the first effect of this card's name once per turn. Also, you can only use the second effect once per turn. 1. If you have a monster with 0 attack and defense in your graveyard, you can special summon this card from your hand. 2. If this card is special summoned from the hand, you can apply these effects in sequence. Add 1 light insect monster from your graveyard to your hand except Newbie, or place 1 trap from your graveyard or banishment on the top or bottom of the deck. This is able to special summon itself only with its first ability, and only use its second ability once a turn. Provided you have a monster with 0 attack and defense in your graveyard, this card can instantly special summon. That's fine because there are plenty of decks that can use those types of monsters, but it will be quite specific as to where you want it. Second ability, as soon as this card is special summoned from the hand, you can apply these effects, but they have to be in sequence, so in the specific order that they're set. Able to add a light insect monster from your graveyard to your hand. There is another one of these B-type monsters which meets that condition, but there are plenty of other other insect monsters, and we keep getting more of these insect-based support through the days, such as through the regular Riker archetype, which specializes in insect, plants, and reptiles. There's more of that support. And the second ability lets you take a trap from your graveyard or banishment, and it gets sent either to the top or bottom of the deck. That's an instant form of recovery. If it goes to the top of the deck, then that means your opponent knows what you're going to top deck. If you put it to the bottom of the deck, you don't have to fret either, because in most cases, your deck gets shuffled multiple times within turns, and so it won't be sticking to the bottom for very long. Ruby Sapphirus, the Jewel of Maximum Mows, is a rank 9 Earth attribute rock type Xyz effect monster. It has 2,700 attack and 1,600 defense, and it requires 2 materials of level 9 monsters, and it gains these effects based on the attributes among its materials. For a fire type, when this declares an attack on a monster with higher attack, you can make this card's attack become doubled until the end of the damage step. Or the water one, once per opponent's turn, as a quick effect, you can target one card you control, negate any card or effect your opponent activates this turn that targets that card. And 2, if this card would be destroyed, you can detach one material from it instead. The summoning condition on this isn't too difficult, as the generator archetype lets you bring out level 9 monsters, and therefore rank 9s are pretty simple within that. There are other cards which can manipulate levels to bring out level 9 monsters that are weaker than level 9 and treat them as level 9 to get this card. But you're only incentivized to run this within either pure fire, pure water, or a combination of both in order to get these effects. The fire effect lets you make this card's attack become doubled until the end of the damage step, so that makes it a 5,400 attack monster, but it has to be a declaration of attack on a monster with a higher attack base. The water effect simply lets you target a card you control, negate any card or effect your opponent activates this turn that provides it with some form of protection. Second ability, if this card is destroyed, you can just attach a material from it instead, so it has some form of self-preservation. Be either destroyed by card effect or by battle, it doesn't matter. So long as it's one of those, it's fine. Shiko here is a play on Supreme or Supremacy, but it replaces the second part with Steel. This stuff is really tough, and the Mohs scale is the measurement of toughness in rocks and minerals. Sapphirus is Latin for sapphire. Token Alliance is a continuous spell card. You can only use the first effect of this card's name each once per turn. 1. You contribute any number of tokens and then target one monster you control with 0 attack. It gains 1,000 attack for each token attributed until the end of this turn. Also, it can make attacks on monsters during each battle phase this turn up to the number of tokens attributed. 2. At the end of your opponent's battle phase, you can special summon Alliance tokens. These are Beast, Earth, level 1s with 0 attack and defense, up to the number of tokens destroyed during this battle phase. This is one of those gimmicky cards which is supposed to support tokens randomly. There are various other cards that do that every so often. That's fine. First ability, just tributing any number of tokens. You get to choose a monster you control with 0 attack, and it gains 1,000 attack for each token tributed. So the more tokens you get rid of, the more powerful your monster becomes. But it has a bit of a cap on it, as your original monster that you're targeting has 0 attack. Therefore, if you're getting rid of 4 tokens, that's assuming the maximum, it would make it a 4,000 attack monster. It can make attacks on monsters during each battle phase this turn up to the number of tokens attributed. So if used correctly with something like Scapegoat, it could potentially close out all of your opponent's monsters. Second effect, at the end of your opponent's battle phase, you're just able to generate a number of tokens, which are called Alliance tokens, up to the number of tokens destroyed during this battle phase. This suggests you have to be running a very pure base token engine, and it's a deck that pretty much doesn't see play. Slapdash Summer Schoolwork Success is a continuous trap card. Activate this card by placing 5 success counters on it. 1 if a monster is special summoned from the edge deck and or a card is sent from deck to graveyard by a spell or trap effect, remove 1 success counter from this card. Then if there are no success counters on it, destroy it, and if you do, gain 4,000 life points. Then set 1 Schoolwork Success trap from your deck or graveyard. Then if you have 1 or less cards in your deck, you win the duel. This is one of those cheesed out win the duel types of effects, and it's one of those which is probably more difficult for you to achieve. It requires you to initially generate 5 success counters on this, and you're able to remove a success counter when either a monster is special from the extra deck, so it's pretty simple to do that. It can be yours or your opponent's extra deck, it doesn't matter. And or a card is sent from the deck to the graveyard, but it has to have been by the effect of a spell or a trap effect. So something like a Foolish Burial would work. Foolish Burial of Goods is another example. However, the attribute knights such as Armageddon Knight would not work in order to use this effect and to remove this success counter. Provided you have no success counters on this card, you're able to destroy this card and then gain 4,000 life points. This is necessary as a way of preserving your life points, as running multiple of these cards in a deck is a bit of a nightmare. You can then set another Schoolwork success card, and it doesn't have to just be this one, it's just part of a mini archetype of, sub-forms of trap cards. And that comes from either the deck or the graveyard. And you need to have 1 or less cards in your deck to win the duel. It's so mad to have that level of requirement. And if anyone can actually, if they can do that, then I'd love to see the gameplay of it. If you guys actually know of any content creators which have made that. Here as part of the notes, it says this is the only card with Shukudai in this spelling, so it's the only trap of itself that can be searched for so far. This suggests that in the future they will have more versions of this card. And it says, more critically, it's referencing the summer homework, as Japan loads students with schoolwork to complete through August. That's typical, that's to do with very much their culture. Of these various cards that have been featured, I think there are a few of them that they're just gimmicky. But of them, I think the only one that's actually quite useful is this honeybee one. The newbie is actually okay. But I also think the Earth attribute zombie, this one here, the transient Titan of Tartarus, might see some gameplay. Otherwise, the other ones are quite forgettable. I'd love to know what you guys think of the various cards that have been discussed today. Make sure to like the videos, please. It helps support the channel, and please subscribe. Thank you.